In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to be confident on camera. I'm going to give you 7 lessons that we have learned from filming over 150 videos in the last 6 months. My gosh, that was a mouthful. So for a little bit of context, which I pretty much gave away in the title, over the last 6 months, we have filmed well over 150 videos with our clients. It has been insane. I don't know how we managed to fit it all in, but we do. The idea for this video came about because I noticed that every time I visited a client, especially the new ones, I was saying the same things over and over to get them to be confident on camera. There were things that I said before we ever met over the phone, and then there were things that I was saying and trying to help them with on the actual day of filming to calm nerves and to get their message across clearly. And I'm going to share those 7 things with you. Now, just before I share them, there are plenty of video production companies around who will disagree with my first one. I don't mind. I think there is a place for everything at the right time. But for the most part, we deal with clients that do a lot of vlogging. So my first tip is don't script. The reality is that if you know your stuff, and for the most part, I believe that you will, because people who are passionate about what they do, they love their job, they're educated in their job, they actually know more than they think they know. There's something about the camera that freaks people right out, but the reality is that once you kind of get over that initially, the information comes spilling out. You know your subject matter, so don't script it. What I will say to do instead is practice. Have a couple of practices on your own if the idea of talking to a camera freaks you out a bit. Feel free to talk it out. Even when I was showing up to a client's business, sometimes I would make them dry run and just talk it through, because the reality is that they were over preparing, they were stressing themselves out, and really they just needed to dry run it. They just needed to get it out of here and out there, because once they did that, it actually became a much smoother process for them to do it the second time or even the third time. It's okay if you need dry runs. It's okay to practice, but don't practice to the point of scripting it. You will always screw up. You will always stumble over your words. And even if you don't, for the most part, you will appear inauthentic because you're not talking from a place of confidence and from a place of knowledge. You're talking from a place of memory. The only people that get away with this are actors in Hollywood and on stage. My second tip for you is to figure out your position of energy. And what I mean by that is sit down, talk it out a little, stand up, talk it out a little. They are going to give you a different amount of energy depending on your personality, depending on how you're comfortable in those positions. I know for myself that when I sit, my energy dissipates, and when I stand, I am far more focused and engaged on you guys. I have plenty of clients who have that same energy sitting down, and that's fine. You just need to figure it out for yourself. My third tip for you is to figure out the clothes you're going to wear. And you might think that that sounds a little bit arbitrary, but it's not. I recommend wearing clothes that you're comfortable in and that you feel like yourself in. Now, I know certain brands and businesses call for business attire, but I would get as close to you feeling comfortable as you possibly can. The reason for this is that your mind is thinking, do I look okay? Do I feel a bit uncomfortable? And it translates through the energy in your body. You can tell when someone isn't comfortable in the clothes that they're in. As well as that, I would also suggest not wearing anything too tizzy, anything too pattern-ish, just because it's hard for people to focus. You don't want to draw their attention elsewhere. If you're doing a talking head video like this, just wear a plain color or as simple as possible. If you're uncomfortable, your audience is going to be uncomfortable. So my fourth point is a little bit strange, but bear with me. When I am filming with a client, oftentimes people struggle to look down a lens. They either want to look at a person, or if you've got a little flip screen, their eyes tend to go there. If they've got notes, they tend to go there. And I'm always directing people back to the camera lens, back to the camera lens, back to the camera lens. One of the ways I get around this when I'm in the room with someone is to stand directly behind the camera so they can just see my eyes above it. And I say to them, if you can't focus on the lens, just focus on my eyes because it's pretty damn close. However, chances are I'm not in the room with you right now and you need to do some filming. So what I would say is try and look at that lens as if it's a person. Think about either your ideal client or customer. And if you're not even sure who that is, or you can't think of anyone off the top of your head, or you're in a department in the business where you haven't met one of the customers, think about someone you know that you could just imagine it was them. Someone you know intimately, a spouse, a friend, a parent, a child, it doesn't really matter. Look down that lens as if you know that person and as if you're having a deep and meaningful conversation with that person. I don't mean get emotional. I just mean eye contact. Eye contact is everything. And when you're looking down the lens of that camera at someone, then they are going to think that you're looking directly at them. So think of the camera as a person as best as possible. My 5th tip is don't try and be clever. And it never works. I think that you are better off just delivering the information as yourself than trying to sound super intellectual or super funny or just clever. I don't know any other way to put it than clever. My 6th tip is passion. Now, I nearly entitled this one Smiling, but a lot of us don't naturally smile on camera, and I really hate that advice when I see it. I understand that it brightens everything. I understand that we articulate better when we smile. When you're speaking to someone and when you're trying to be thoughtful, meaningful, when you're trying to educate, can you imagine if I stood here the whole time and smiled at you? You will probably want to stab me in the face. So if you're a smiler, that's different. I know people who are, and it looks $1 million on them because that is who they are and it makes sense. But if by nature you are not uber smiley, don't force it. Please don't force it. You just need to be you. You don't need to smile to be passionate. I don't smile a lot. I'm not super smiley. I'm just passionate in my body language and the energy that I give off. My eyes are super expressive. So you just be you. You do you, boo. But just remain passionate about what it is that you're talking about. And my final point for you guys is to not go back and try and perfect any mistakes you've made. Bar missing a main point, like I said that there's 7 lessons in here and I only gave you 6, so it makes sense for me to go back and film it so that there's 7. Beyond doing something that's silly and needing to go back and refilm it, I highly suggest not filming over and over and over. Something robotic takes over, something very scripted takes over, and you are better off being a little bit raw and taking the time to get used to the camera than you are to go back and continually try and perfect things. It's never going to work in your favor, and your audience is going to be more and more disconnected from you as you go because you're going to believe less and less in what you're saying because you're actually just trying to remember what you need to say. Only if you miss a main point do you need to go back, but really consider whether or not it was a main point or it's just something that you want to say because you thought that you were going to say it and then you missed it. And if you can get away with not adding anything, don't. So my question to you this week is, do you have another way that helps you be confident on camera? If so, drop it in the comments below because it's going to help everybody else. Make sure that you hit that bell and subscribe so that you get notifications every time I push something live. And if you want to see the schedule for this month, head over to Facebook at 11 Lights Media, and there is a schedule up there with all the videos that we are putting out. So I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.